Alright, we're going to take a look here at how to make an animated GIF. This particular one, we're going to use a puppet warp tool. So I went ahead and found a object that'd be easy to puppet warp, like my buddy Hulk here. It's easy if you use something that already has the background cut out, which I got lucky because this one, as you can see with the checkerboard patterns, already cut out. So the first thing I want to do is decide how many phases of this movement do I need. Now GIFs are usually composed of 10 different frames. It just depends on what it is. I think for this one probably, since I'm just going to have him raise his arms up, I'll just need 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and simply duplicate this layer 4 times. So you can see that over in the layers palette, 4 different copies, and we'll move them around. Now the first one I don't need to mess with because it's the starting point. So I'm going to go on to the second one. I'm going to hide all of the other layers. You can use the clicks individually, but a little trick for you, if you hold the Option key and click, then they'll all go away. Now this one, I want his arms to start to come up. Now the only tool really in Photoshop that I can do that with is the puppet warp. So I go to Edit, Transform. How about I select the layer first, Edit, and then I choose Puppet Warp. It's going to put the little outline on him, and I can go ahead and say, alright, I want a joint here, here on the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist again. And I'm going to go ahead and put a couple in on his hips and his knees just so that those don't move, more to pin him in place to make a move. Now I'm going to go ahead and have him raise his arms about halfway up here, so I'll take his wrist, that point on his wrist, and I'll kind of do that, and I'll move that shoulder up, and I'll do the same thing on this side. And so now layer 2, I have, if I push enter, I have that where he goes down and then up. Okay, so the process just continues for the next few layers. I just open the second one, Edit, Puppet, again put in the points. Now in some ways it would be nice if these puppet warp points would stay, but they don't. For something like this simple GIF, it's not too crazy that you have to be so exact. But this one I want his arm, and I'm even going to have his shoulder go up so he doesn't get that little bend there. Okay, so I'll put his arm up a little bit higher. In some ways it may have been easier instead of doing each one from the base layer, making the 4 copies right away. It may have been easier if I had done a duplicate, but we're just going to continue as it is, so you might want to do that on yours. But now we can see his arms kind of raising up there. And then finally I'll come on to the last layer, Edit, Puppet Warp, put it on his wrist. Actually, I'm going to show you the other way, which will be a little easier. If I take this layer instead and duplicate it, and then puppet warp from there, I won't have to guess so much about how far I need to move. So I'll do again is wrist, shoulder, arm, wrist, shoulder, and we'll just kind of fly through here. You might do a little better job on your personal one. And I'll move his arm the rest of the way up, elbow up, and shoulder, get off there, up. So now I've got him gone all the way basically up to the top of the frame. So now comes the part where I turned it into an actual GIF, and I'm going to bring all the 3 layers back so we can see him moving there. Now to do the GIF, I need to bring back in that timeline from below. So I go Window, Workspace, and Motion, and that gives me my timeline. Now you may notice something different. There I've reset mine. Originally it was doing video when we were doing video work with the pledge, but now we're going to do an animation. So if you click the little drop down next to there, there's Create Frame Animation. And if I choose that, then it will give me the different kind of timeline where it's just still shots. And what I want to do now is I want to create all of these layers as their own little button. And the place to do that is there's a little tiny called a context menu right here on the top of the timeline. And there's the option for create new layer from each new frame. So I say create new layer for each new frame, and it'll take each of those 4, perhaps. I need to select them first. And let me pause for a second. I messed it up. It wasn't actually create new layers, it's this make frames from layers. So I say make frame from layers, and then now you can see I have my 4. Now if I click the play button, we'll see him go through his animation. Now I can change this. You see underneath there's the little different drop downs for different speeds. I'm going to go ahead and change this. And this is nice if I'm doing an animation that maybe I need part of it to stay on longer. Maybe it's like a word, like a longer word that's animating in. So you can see I can slow him down there so he raises up a little bit slower. And I can adjust that however I need. But that's the basics of doing a Puppet Warp GIF animation. The last thing I need to do is save this out. Mostly GIFs are going on the web, so we have an option that we haven't used before, which is Save for Web. And this dialog has a lot of options, a few that we need to adjust. First off, we want to make sure that it's set to be a GIF. All of this stuff you can basically leave alone, transparency and all of the rest. You don't necessarily need all of the colors that we have here, so we can turn that down, which will make the file size a little bit smaller because the colors aren't that intense. The other thing is this is a really large image that I got off the internet. Realistically, we want most of our GIFs to be like in the 600 range. So if I change that to 600, you see it'll get a little bit smaller, and you can kind of play with that as you do different previews of it. We also have the option for looping. Right now it's set to only play once through, which looks okay, but it'll be cooler if it loops forever. So we'll have them do it just rah, 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 so it comes in and on and on. Okay. I also, before I save this, have the option for preview, which will actually open it in a web browser so I can see what it looks like on a full preview. So there you go. There's the Hulk getting all pissed off. And if I'm happy with all of that, then I can say save. It'll ask me where it wants it, and I'll just put it on my desktop. Hulk, done. And you notice the outline is GIF, and it's all set. If I go and open that up from my desktop, it should open. This one actually opens in preview, but if I open that on a web browser, then I will have a completed GIF. So that's how you do it.